Throughout this podcast, sensitive subjects such as sexual assault, eating disorders, and suicidal thoughts will be mentioned. Listen with care. And sometimes throughout this podcast, I will use AI to bring real social media posts to life. While the voices you are hearing are fake, the words they are reading are 100% real. And I will be sure to point them out to you throughout the podcast so that you don't get confused. While I work on the next season of Don't Waste This Effing Podcast, which I'm really excited to bring to you, Megan's story is just heating up. I guess we shouldn't be surprised. So until that season is ready, and I'm aiming for January, I'm going to do a couple bonus episodes that I wasn't planning for the Megan season. Today, I'm starting with a deep dive into the Tesla saga because I've seen your comments and I've noticed there's still a lot of discourse around the Teslas. How did Megan scam someone into giving her a Tesla when she begs for money for DoorDash daily? Actually, I think there were 4 separate Teslas. So today, I'm going to clarify that. Then we'll do an update on Megan's case because I think more has happened in the last week than in the last 6 months. Finally, I'm going to give my opinion on some of these updates. I usually don't give my opinions, but there's too much going on for me to be quiet right now. So thanks for tuning in. Let's get into this episode. I'm Amanda, and this is Don't Waste This Effing Podcast, the story of Megan Stoner. So the Tesla story begins as most things do in the Meganverse on social media on April 21st, 2021. She posted on social media that a generous donor gifted her a Tesla, and in this post, there are photos close up of a Tesla monitor as well as a Tesla dealership. The post is geotagged in Indianapolis, Indiana. Then, on June 1st, 2021, she posts photos of a red Tesla Model 3. The standard price of this model was $41,000 in 2021 for a brand new one, according to Google, but depending on trim, it could go up to around $60,000. Just 25 days later, on June 25th, 2021, she posts that she has a new car, a black Tesla Model 3. A day later, she puts a call out on Facebook asking someone to drive her new car and pick her up from the Tesla service center as she drops her old one off. She says a bonus is that they'll get a free spin in her Model 3. The next day, she posts more photos of the car, saying she got her dad's personality in terms of liking cars, and announces that she has named the car Black Beauty. Then, just 2 months later, on August 31st, 2021, she posts that her insurance has totaled Black Beauty. I think it's weird phrasing that she said insurance totaled the car, not her, and that she has a blue Model Y coming. On September 5th, 2021, she announces Tesla number 3, Blue Beauty. This is where I think she really started to draw attention. I mean, she's always drawn attention, but on September 6th, 2021, she posted that she needed help picking up a car from Utah. On September 12th, 2021, she posted a photo of herself posing with Blue Beauty in Indiana outside of a Victoria's Secret. She claims she needed this Tesla because of a condition she supposedly has that didn't allow her to drive cars other than Teslas. I want to note that all of the Teslas she rented were Tesla Model 3s. These are not self-driving Teslas. They're like an entry-level Tesla. She goes into detail in this post, which you know by now is read by AI.
Living with a vision impairment and having no depth perception is really hard and sometimes even impossible. Many know I quit driving for a long time due to this. However, given that recent technology, I'm able to drive again. This is just one example of how Tesla and Elon has made it possible for me to safely drive again and to feel confident while driving.
And this should go without saying, but I'm just going to underline this. There is no law on the books in Indiana or any state in the United States that says that if you are severely vision impaired, you can drive a Tesla but not any other car. If you're severely vision impaired, you just can't drive, period. Again, I should not have to say that, but I'm going to emphasize that. And again, weirdly in that encounter with getting the third Tesla, she says that the insurance company totals it, but she does not say that she did anything wrong. Well, that kind of continues. On September 15th and October 28th of 2021, she posted about a couple altercations that she got into on the road. She posted about a couple bad drivers she came into contact with on the road.
Monday, I experienced a driver that got out of his car on Bowdoin by Ruoff and parked the car to get out of the car to yell at me. I called the police and got his plate number. Tonight, I'm on getting ready to hop on past the state fairgrounds and was ran off the road into the gravel and grass area. Thankfully, I was able to get that plate number as well and call the police again. Please stop being an idiotic driver. Don't run people off the road. So let me get this straight. 3 weeks ago, I drove 5 minutes and my car said flat tire and 0 PSI. I thought that was weird. I pulled over and sure enough, it had 7 nails in it. I about threw up. A friend called me and said there was a pile of nails in the driveway when I was dealing with my flat tire. My mom and I were thankful I wasn't on going 69 miles per hour. I was on City Road going maybe 30. Today, after receiving multiple text messages about the stalkers Elv had for several weeks. I go to bring in my trash can and there's these nails in my driveway again. I just got 4 brand new tires yesterday. I went on Saturday to the tire shop. They said my dad called and told them to give me 4 mismatched tires. Tesla caught it on Monday that the tires were all wonky. And then today, I have had it. Whoever is doing this, you're on notice. Attention, Association of Related Churches.
Obviously read by AI. So that's kind of the things that she was posting at this time, that, other drivers on the road are the problem, not her. But I want you to take notice of how in these posts, everyone's out to get her. She's constantly in these very dramatic, over-the-top situations, because that comes in later in the episode, in the updates. She's always spoken as if there's a bunch of people out to get her. In this one, too, she talks about it.
Today, I was wrapping up a short coffee meeting for work at a Starbucks. I ran home to check on Coco and came back to get a fresh drink for this afternoon. I ran into my rapist and parked wonky in the parking lot because I didn't feel like I could breathe and I needed to park my car away from others. I did so. I went in, got my drink, and came back out to find staff video recording me. I've called and now talked with the DM proxy because the DM is on vacation. Do better, fellow humans. We are all dealing with something on the inside that others do not know.
And then we have the infamous OWI, which is the driving under the influence charge. Here's how Megan describes it on Facebook.
Last night was one of the most terrifying experiences of my life. While driving home on Prairie Baptist Road, I was intentionally run off the road by a truck, sending my car through a fence before thankfully and miraculously coming safely to a stop. I called immediately. While responding, the officers noticed cold medicine and medication in my car. I have been using cough medicine for 39 days, as Elv had a lingering cough since contracting COVID in January. I also have a prescription for the medication in question. The officers informed me that the combination of the two is considered driving under the influence, something I was completely unaware of, as it has never impeded my driving or focus in any way. When I asked them to note that I had been intentionally run off the road, they refused and insisted I must have hallucinated. Suffice to say, this terrifying ordeal, combined with previous PTSD, left me extremely shaken. However, the officers decided to have me spend the night in jail, and adding insult to injury, my mugshot will be featured on the local news this evening. I am still trying to recover from all of this. I feel like I've been hit by a tornado, and I would appreciate your prayers.
That is obviously, again, read by AI, and that DUI post was on March 1st, 2022. Skipping ahead to March 26, 2022, Megan posts another photo of a busted tire, and 7 months later, on October 8th, 2022, she posts that Blue Beauty, the Tesla, has been totaled in a front-end collision. On February 5th, 2022, car number 4 is announced, but has already been in an accident. 15 days later, on February 20th, 2023, Megan shares the news that Tesla number 4 has been totaled. So I think that's 5 Teslas, actually. Because then we get to the point where she's driving around in a white one. And that Twitter thread that I just read through and used AI to read through doesn't ever mention the white one. So if you're wondering how Megan obtained these Teslas, I think the first 2 must have come from somewhere in Indy, and she must have rented them, like, using her own stuff. And I think at least one that she was renting from Steven, who has filed charges against her in a civil suit. I think that at least one of those, she impersonated her former roommate and used her former roommate's social security number to obtain that. And Megan, I believe, has admitted to that. One of my all-time favorite DMs, I think she sent to Greg Mustache, the Anon account, she said something like, yes, I did all of what's listed above, but I want to move on. Like, how can I get out of this? Do you think if I apologize to Steven, the owner of the Tesla place that she was renting from in Utah, will that be enough? So I think it's the Utah Tesla rental thing is confusing. And what I'll say about that is it seems like it's kind of like a side hustle for Steven to have a couple Teslas that he leases out. Like he acts as a bank. This is not a big time dealership. This is just, I don't know. I know some people rent out cars like Airbnbs on Turo. It sounds like he's doing that, but like his own operation. And Megan scammed him out of that. When it gets into the legal situation with that former Tesla owner, I'm going to have Alex Brewster cover that because she knows way more than I do. So thank you, Alex, for this guest recording, kind of breaking all of that down.
If there's anything I've learned through this whole saga, behind every Megan storyline is somebody who is being taken advantage of or abused. And it's always a matter of how and who. Megan frequently posted on X, formerly known as Twitter, about her beloved Teslas, and it was always a mystery to all of us as how she was able to afford such an expensive car. By late July of 2023, we had established that Megan had no formal income, making her access to a $40,000 plus vehicle pretty confusing, and we knew something untoward must have been happening, but didn't exactly know what. Around this time, Megan had been pulled over a multitude of times for driving on a suspended license due to her DWI and absolutely diabolical driving record. At the time, she was pursuing an exception for her license suspension for, quote, work reasons, which was probably just for her to continue driving for rideshare services. In order for her to apply correctly, she had to submit insurance documentation to the court in Indiana Motor Vehicles Department. I thought this would be the best time to look into what was going on with her Teslas. After doing a FOIA request, some folks in the scam awareness group helped take a look at the documents. While I do own a car and have my own documents, that doesn't mean I know what I'm looking for. So with the help of folks who knew a heck of a lot more than I do, we determined the documents had been tampered with using half-decent Photoshop skills. If I remember correctly, someone confirmed with the insurance company that Megan's coverage had lapsed and she was not covered, meaning she submitted falsified documents to the court, which was a separate journey altogether. Something that stood out to me, though, was the lien holder of the vehicle was a name of a person, rather than Megan herself, a bank, or a dealership. I felt this was unusual and worth looking into. I did some searching of the lien holder on Facebook and found a Facebook account that matched the profile of the person we were looking for, or more so, matched the name and description of the person we were looking for. When checking the profile, the very same photo Megan had of her Tesla was his Facebook banner, and I knew at that point we had the right person. However, I knew if I had messaged him using Facebook, my message would have fallen into the dark depths of the spam folder, given that we had not a single mutual interest or friend or anything connecting us together. From some other digging, it appeared that the lien holder was a business owner, where he leases a small fleet of Teslas as a side business. I found their profile on LinkedIn and activated LinkedIn Premium just to send them a message, figuring that would be my best bet on getting in contact, and I quickly got a message back. From the conversation, I established From the conversation, I established the last two Teslas Megan, quote, owned came from this person. Megan had totaled the first vehicle she leased from the lien holder when she received her DWI. However, she told the lien holder that she hit a deer. The truth of that whole scenario is still out. I personally am still waiting on the FOIA request for the police report. Megan never provided the insurance payout amount, and the lien holder had engaged a lawyer to try to pursue a legal route to retrieve the money. The second Tesla she leased from the lien holder was leased using a stolen identity from a previous roommate of Megan's. I provided the documents Megan submitted to the court to the lien holder to provide grounds for repossession. Using the Tesla's owner technology, the lien holder was able to brick the car remotely and flew to Indiana the very next morning to pick it up and drive it back to their home state. I didn't look into the lore around Megan's Teslas to be a nosy Nancy, but because of what I said earlier, Megan doesn't have a single storyline that doesn't involve taking advantage of people. Teslas are not cheap, and I couldn't fathom what she was doing in order to have that sort of access. Through the research myself and a small group of others did, we established she submitted falsified court documents, committed identity theft, and financial fraud, and helped us understand the extent of the financial abuse Tom experienced as his name came up in some of the payments. I had a long conversation with the lien holder's lawyer and was able to help connect a few dots to help them proceed. At the time that I'm recording this, Megan has not been to court for any of the matters revolving her Tesla scheme, but I am hopeful that the victims of this will receive the justice that they so deserve.
So I hope all of this helps you understand the Tesla saga of it all. Tesla, I don't know. Justin says Tesla, so I started saying it. I don't know what the accent is. I hope this helps you understand that kind of saga a little bit better. Thank you again, Alex. And if you guys want more content, like full-length interviews, I'm just going to plug it now. I started a Patreon. I put like the whole Twitter spaces in there, the whole Alex interview. I'm working on uploading ad-free episodes. It's just hard with my computer. I have an old computer. I need to buy a new one. Uploading former episodes so that you can listen to them ad-free. And I'm working on uploading a bunch of the Megan calls from jail between her and Justin to the Patreon. So it's $5 a month. If you want to support the podcast, you can check that out. Now, let's get into an update on what's been going on, because that's a whole other ballgame. All right, so now I hope the Tesla saga makes a little bit better, or you understand it a little bit better. And now let's get into what I think you're really wondering about or asking for. If you follow the whole Megan saga, either in the podcast Facebook group or the podcast Instagram, or you follow Megan on Twitter, I think what you really want to know is what's been going on. I tweeted a couple weeks ago that I think more has happened in the last 12 hours than happened in the previous 6 months of the Megan saga. That night, I got some sort of respiratory issue that I'm not quite over, if you can tell in my voice. But I tried to record the episode for you. I couldn't. And now it's been so long with the holidays, even more has happened. Maybe that was a sign. Um, so I have a lot to get through to kind of update you on. I'm just going to update on kind of the big stuff, but listen, I know that there's almost 600 people in the Facebook group, and I think like almost 250 or something followers on the Instagram. That's less than 10% of the people listening. So I think I'm going to try and explain this the best I can, but if you want more, you're going to have to follow along on Twitter or on one of those other mediums to kind of get the full picture. And also, just heads up, I've recorded this. I'm not kidding, probably 12 or 13 times. I've re-recorded this update because new things keep happening, and so I need to keep re-recording it. So I'm going to try and get through it and make all the points I wanted to make. The main thing to understand, I'm starting to realize that like we're in peak Megan mania right now, which those of us who followed this in summer 2023, we're used to this. We've dealt with this before. But I understand the audience of people following the Megan saga has, greatly increased with the success of the podcast. And so if that has increased, or as that has increased, now a lot of you are experiencing for the first time what like a full-blown Megan insane thing is. And so welcome. It's so fun, isn't it? I think so first of all, I just want to acknowledge that if you're not seeing me and Justin freak out necessarily, about like when I say peak Megan Mania, I mean 4 a.m. she's threatening suicide, and then noon she's putting a public call out so that she can get Chick-fil-A, and then 4 p.m. she's getting a documentary made about her, and then 8 p.m. she's suing someone new, and that's all from her Twitter threads and stuff. And so it can be very confusing because there's just a lot going on, and then there's a whole group of people who are commenting on it, and it's a ton to follow, and it can be confusing. So I'm going to attempt to clarify that for you. But first of all, I just want to acknowledge if it feels like a lot, it's because of it's a lot. And if you feel like me or other people are maybe a little bit more calm dealing with it, it's because we've been through this before. This is what summer 2023, the whole podcast series, that's what this felt like. Um, so maybe now you understand a little bit more if you've been feeling all over the place and confused why we felt the need to do what we did. I'm going to start with there was a trial or a new court date for Megan in mid December, where I think some people were under the impression that Megan would be presented with new charges. Quite frankly, I was curious about that. Or she would be presented with the fact that she has violated her probation and she might go back to jail. And I know that a lot of people were very disappointed when nothing really came of that. I mean, Megan pled guilty to more charges. Which which are now on her record, but she somehow sees that as a win for her. In my opinion, it's not because it's really a win for her, it's because she spins and manipulates and twists everything into being a win for her. So her not going back to jail means that she really won in her mind. Okay. And I think for the people that are feeling confused about this, I just want to help you understand from your perspective, if you're a listener to this podcast, you know that like you know all of the things that Megan has been accused of. But technically right now the only thing Megan has been charged for is a rental scam with 4 victims, one of which has been paid back. In the eyes of the law, Megan is a first-time nonviolent offender. And I think if you live in America, you know this, and if you don't, because I know I have an international audience, I'll just explain the posture towards first time nonviolent offenders in terms of like the law and crime right now in America is like, oh, we need to give this person a second chance. And if you've been listening to the podcast and you understand, like, I can come up with 6 times that Megan got a second, technically a second chance from the police, or run-ins with the police for doing illegal or crazy things that she didn't get charged for. You know, there was the time that she was called into the police with the pastors when she accused them of like really terrible things. And the police were already familiar with Megan and had dealt with her before at that point by the age of like 12. And then I think there were like something like 4 separate Indiana police investigations while Megan was working in or volunteering at the state house a lot. I think 2 of them had to do with false sexual assault allegations. I think one of them had to do with her lying and saying that she was employed on a rental application when she wasn't. And one of them was the false, like, mass suicide thing that she was working when she didn't work there. All of those I think I covered in the podcast. But like those are just off the top of my head. And that's not including the times that, you know, all the FOIA requests, right? Where the chiropractor was calling the police saying, "What do I do about this woman?" The countless, you know, the rental scam that she wasn't charged with, the victims that of the rental scam that were not on that, the Tom situation, all of those things, the police looked at and chose not to charge her, or have not yet chosen to charge her. So you are looking at this from the perspective of like, well, Megan's already had like 12 second chances. Now it's kind of time to throw the book at her. In the eyes of the law, especially with the posture of like the whole like give people second chances criminal justice reform thing, Megan's a first time nonviolent offender. And so that's how they're going to treat her. Um, I don't, I'm pretty confident that more charges will be brought over the next year or so. I wouldn't be surprised if they're federal charges and not just state charges. But like in the interim, it's just going to be this kind of crazy cycle. And kind of what's going to happen is it'll be kind of really crazy mania, like kind of what we're in now and we've kind of been in for the last couple weeks. And then Megan will kind of calm down and it'll be like a once per day kind of call out for money or something like that. And then she'll really amp it up and she'll kind of go crazy again and then she'll die back down. And I think that that'll probably happen until she gets new charges. Um, that's my opinion. And like again, for a lot of you who are following this and you follow this as like like entertainment because you're into true crime or you follow me from TikTok or something like that, you know, I think that i- if you're seeing it through that lens and you're seeing this as like an entertainment series, you think that there's like a beginning, middle, and an end, being that I've put out less episodes lately and something was wrong. The other podcast covering this is winding down. Um, it probably feels like, okay, we're near the end. The end is when Megan gets arrested and goes to jail or something and reforms. Um, I hate to say this. I don't even know if we're not at the end. I don't know if we've made it to the middle. Justin says this all of the time. The worst thing Megan will ever do, I don't think she's done yet. I think that Megan, honestly, being that I have not seen that she's really reformed or changed in any way, her behavior is like pretty much the same as it's always been, if not getting worse. I think that Megan will probably live a life kind of like she is right now, where she's kind of in and out of jail a couple times, but she'll never really commit something beyond like a level 5 or a level 6 felony. Probably. I hopefully, right? I wish she would commit no felonies, right? I wish she would reintegrate into society and not break any laws. But it doesn't really seem that that's the path that Megan is choosing to pursue. And so, um, I really all we can do as a community, all I can do as the person hosting this podcast, all the people kind of running like the admins, Greg's mustache, Vero, Justin, Chloe, Alex, all these people, all we can do is spread awareness. Tiffany. And so that's kind of what this podcast is, right? It's to spread awareness. We're kind of doing all that we can do. Um and I understand that it's frustrating. And again, this will kind of go on probably for the rest of Megan's life if I had to guess. Unless she really has a come to Jesus moment and she's like, I don't want to do this anymore. And I think the dangerous thing with Megan is she knows how to adopt the language that she really wants to change, even though it's not really her intention. And so if she does really ever want to change and she speaks like she does, we're not really even going to know because she's so good at co-opting language like she did with the political movement, like she did with the churches, like she did with the Spice Girls, the mental health community, all of that. And so we're never really going to know for sure. And at that point, when we can't really trust her words, we need to look at her actions. And her actions are that as soon as Megan got out of jail, she immediately started behaving the same way she was before jail. She immediately put out an Amazon wish list. She immediately started digital panhandling. And I don't think it's correct or fair to say that because I've seen this accusation thrown and made that like, you know, it's Megan's paid her debt to society, she can move on and those things are not illegal because when she was kicked out of her work release program, that was cited on the documentation of one of the reasons that was cited for her being kicked out of that program was because she was soliciting donations from hundreds if not thousands of people per day. So if the work release program was so concerned by that behavior that they're willing to put it on her documentation not allowing her to come back saying that she was violating her agreement, then I think it's safe to say that it's at least a legal gray area that it's not allowed now. I'm not quite sure. Another thing that Justin's been pointing out to me that I think is true is that I don't know that the law has caught up with people like Megan. You know, I don't know with the digital age and stuff if the law is quite cut out for people who do this, and like if we've really created a legal system that would like, or a legal consequence or something that would like stop this or like prevent more people from being scammed. So we have to keep that in mind as well. But so I don't know. I don't think it's right to say that she's repaid her debt to society, because even though she served what was it, 14 or 15 months, she came out, she's doing the same behavior. She's not made restitution. She's not paid restitution. That was also a part of her agreement, is that she would pay restitution to 3 victims. She's not done that. And she's behaving in the same manner that got her kicked out of the work release program. The main thing she needs to do is to get a job. And the fact that she didn't get a job in work release, when my understanding is that pretty much everybody in that gets a job immediately, and she didn't after a month, and now she's not getting a job now, and she's blaming it on the group. Don't worry, we'll get into that. Um and now she's not gotten a job now, when Justin texted her the day she got out and said, I have a girl that will hire you immediately. And Megan came up with a bunch of excuses. Oh, I can't do that. I'm going to be in a wheelchair. I can't stand. I can't be in a gas station. That wasn't true. And so, because she's never brought it up since, and she never brought it up before. It's not true. She's just coming up with an excuse because she doesn't want to work. I have a theory on why this is. We will get to that. Um, but yeah, so things kind of, I think, got confusing for the group following this. Um, One more thing I'll say about the group, until a little bit later, but the group kind of, it used to be just like the people from the Megan Stoner Chronicles group on Facebook, but now I think it's kind of extended to the podcast audience. So Megan assumes that you, the listener, are like a part of this band of haters against her or something. So welcome to the club. It's a fun one. And when I talked throughout this podcast about how she has this like weird symbiotic relationship, that she considers you a part of that if you follow me or Justin on Twitter or the Instagram or anything. I mean, she blocks people very liberally. So if people, I see people ask a lot, like, why am I blocked by her? Because because you're interacting, she considers you a part of us. Um, so welcome to the club. But I also think that things started getting really erratic with Megan when she got kicked out of her transition living facility. So Megan was in some sort of transition facility living. Now, she has blamed this on Greg's mustache, the anonymous account on Twitter, as well as her having a high profile case. And saying it was some sort of like, I think, church run facility where they take in people who are just getting out of jail, who don't have somewhere to stay, and help them get on their feet and stuff. And I believe that Megan has to pay rent, but it's very little, it's a very small amount of money. And that, it is what it is. And she was asked to leave that facility. Now, I don't trust Megan's reasonings for why she says that she was kicked out. First of all, it is very Megan to say, "Oh, well, it's because everything's high profile," like kind of trying to like say that like her situation is so crazy and out there and that's why. It kind of reminds me of the false sexual assault allegations. She never made them against just Joe Schmo, a random guy in the street. It was always a powerful man in Indiana. To me, there's kind of a consistency here with saying, "Oh, but my case is just so high profile, that's why I'm not allowed in." It could be true, or it could be that she didn't make the rental payment, she refused to get a job, that she was harassing people, having a hard time living close to other former inmates, or people getting in fights with these people in the transition care. Any of those things could also be the case. And we've seen evidence of Megan like having those problems before. So I don't know that we should take Megan at her word that we are the reason she was kicked out of the transition facility. She loves to blame her haters. I don't think that we should take her at her word on that. Um, so when she got kicked out of that, it's my understanding that Megan kind of bounced around to a couple different to stay with a couple different people. One of these people is Megan's half sister. Now, Megan's half sister, I believe, is a private person. I've never spoken to her. I didn't even know that the half sister was real because, like, the parent that they shared, which is Dennis, Megan's dad, um, like, this half sister was not mentioned in Dennis's obituary. So, I didn't even know that there was a half sister, but apparently there is. All I'm going to say, because again, I think that she's a private person, is that apparently Megan and this half sister have only met like maybe under 5 times in their lives. I think this half sister is a lot older than Megan. I think Megan went to stay with her. Um, and I think it ended, from what I understand, I've heard this from multiple people, it ended very badly, and Megan had to go stay somewhere else after that. Then Megan went to stay with someone who has been involved with this kind of community of listeners. This woman's name is Emily. Um, all right, I can't hold my tongue on this, so I'm just gonna tell you everything I know. Justin spoke with this woman, Emily, on the phone, thinking that he was gonna just explain the. From what I've gathered, this woman, Emily, is like an old friend of Megan's half sister, and it seems to be meddling in internal family business of Megan's. Um, because it just seems that that is her personality. She claims that she's just very empathetic and she can see all sides. I think it speaks to this woman's character that the only person that she seems to have empathy for is an abuser, which is Megan. That empathy does not seem to extend to Megan's victims. Um, because she's out there. She claims that she's not defending Megan, but if I had to characterize it, it seems like what this woman will say is that she knows that Megan has issues, but the real issue is the group, and she has, I mean, I'm sorry, but like, to claim that you're not defending Megan when you are follow all of us on Twitter and are constantly getting into Twitter fights on behalf of Megan, only standing up and defending for Megan. You joined the Facebook group and we're starting fights with people in the Facebook group defending Megan while Megan was staying with this woman. This woman was in the Facebook group, I'm sure, showing everything to Megan, saying, oh, look at this person, go look at this person, whatever. She's since been removed from the group. Like, that was over a month ago. This woman started her own podcast where she's released 2 episodes of like kind of incoherent rambling where she's driving and you can hear the noises in the background of her really just saying that the group is just terrible. We're just awful. This group is just insane. This group, it's the group, it's the group. And like, if all of that does not is not you defending Megan, I don't know what is. I like this parallel that this woman has drawn in her mind that, like, well, she's not really defending Megan. Um, it doesn't exist. It's not a nuanced thing. She's not big braining all of us like I think she thinks she is. I think this is a woman of, like, honestly low intelligence who just doesn't really know what's going on and likes to insert herself in other people's business and other people's drama and like take on causes that she doesn't really know anything about, and thinks that that makes her a good person. Not only is she defending Megan online, because I don't care. Like she can do whatever she wants to do. Me putting this podcast out, I can't control how people view it or how people see it. And so, there are going to be these people who want to be the contrarian, again, like, kind of take Megan's side. If this woman wants to do that, whatever, I don't care. What I do care about is that she was complicit in Megan harassing Tom, because while Megan was staying at this woman's house, they came up with this big plan that Megan was going to start her own podcast. And instead of talking about politics and claiming to be the strategist or, just talking about her life, talking about life after lockup, mental health, anything like that, the podcast was going to be Megan interviewing her victims, which is the most absurd thing in the world. And I really hope Megan does it because that would be great evidence to be used in future trials that could go into effect and could happen. But this woman knew that Megan was repeatedly calling Tom and harassing him and just doesn't seem to care. It doesn't really, I guess somebody losing $15,000 to Megan's scam, that's not a victim. That's not someone worthy of empathy. But Megan being in a situation completely of her own making, that is worthy of empathy. Again, I don't really get it. She's entitled to her opinion. Um, so like, it, I don't know. Megan, and then apparently that ended badly too. Megan was kind of kicked out abruptly of this Emily woman's home, but now Emily's still defending her online and things like that. I think that Megan's maybe stayed with somebody else, one or two other people, and then I think she's been in like maybe one or two other transition facilities. It sounds like she might be close to being kicked out of maybe a third transition facility. I've also heard that Megan's staying in some sort of like Section 8 rental, which, if you don't know what Section 8 is, it's government subsidized housing. Um, I don't know really what it is. I know that like things have been up in the air and things have been kind of erratic with Megan's living situation. And like, listen, I understand that that would be hard, but I think that like just this pattern has remained true where Megan's kind of gotten into this thing where she's having these very tumultuous relationships and she's burned a lot of people very quickly. Um, and to be truthful, that's probably what's going to end up happening with this Emily woman. Megan will probably burn her. Apparently, she already has with the previous time that Megan was staying with her. Um, I don't know why you go back and touch the hot stove twice, but I don't know why anybody does what they do. So apparently that's happening. And I don't know, this woman just takes a big issue with the fact that there's a group out to get Megan. And like, let me just say this. First of all, the group is not a monolith. None of us are acting on behalf of one another. A lot of us don't even know each other. There's two Facebook groups. There's the podcast one and then there's the one that existed prior. Not everybody is the same in those. A lot of people are following this for entertainment. Some people are following this and being more active in things like that. Nobody can control what a group does. The only person that can control anything is Megan. Honestly, if Megan wasn't behaving in the way that she was, I don't think that there would be so many people following this story. If Megan went to jail and actually paid her debts to society and actually just shut up and got a job and stopped harassing people, nobody would still be talking about this. But Megan loves that we're talking about this. She loves that she feels like she's some sort of a celebrity. And so it's created this like weird dichotomy of like the podcast is doing what it's supposed to do. It's spreading awareness, but on this flip side, this small minority of people who seem to be kind of defending Megan like in a way that kind of emboldens her and then it kind of makes her worse. In my opinion, the benefits outweigh the costs. The benefit of raising awareness is better than Megan getting emboldened by the small amount of people who she's kind of twisting and manipulating into supporting her. Because that's honestly what I think is happening. I think that this Emily woman believes that she's so much smarter and more empathetic and caring than all of us. And I really think that she's just being manipulated by Megan and doesn't realize that. She'll say things like, well, Megan's not a mastermind. Uh, She's fooled you. She's fooled this woman, Emily. Um, like she's fooled you. I mean, like this woman Emily, when she was on the call with Justin, she was saying things like, "Oh, but Megan's only ever seen one movie before." I'm that makes Megan a victim because she's only ever seen one movie. First of all, it's patently not true. I think if you go through Megan's Twitter, you will see that she's seen more than one movie. What makes someone a real victim? Having only seen one movie before, or having $15,000 stolen from them? Having $5,000 stolen from them, being left homeless on Christmas. Do you see why I have kind of a hard problem like entertaining this kind of line of questioning? But Megan's the real victim and the group is the real problem in this woman's eyes. Um this woman just seems to think that, Megan's not able to reintegrate into society and all of these things because of the actions of the group. And like, I'm just going to say this, all of the problems Megan has right now, tumultuous relationships with people close to her, issues with her housing situation, issues with money, poor money management, not having a job. That's true for her now. It was true for her when she was in the work release program. It was true for her in the summer of 2023. It was true prior to her first arrest in late April or early May of 2023. That's the story of Megan's adult life. It existed before the group. She's always blamed a brigade of haters for every one of her downfalls. The problem is that the common denominator is Megan, and she's refusing to take responsibility for her actions. If the group didn't exist, if the podcast didn't exist, Megan would be in the exact same place that she is in now. I think Megan's manipulating this woman, manipulating certain people by saying, "Oh my God, but I can't get a job because the group is calling every employer in town, telling them not to hire me. And I have such a high profile case, no one will hire me." That's not true. I know for a fact, all of the rest of us actually have jobs. Nobody has time to be calling all these people saying, "Don't hire Megan." Nobody's doing that. If the word is getting out that Megan, about her past and her like kind of manipulative ways and stuff, if that word is getting out, first of all, there's no way it's gotten out to everyone. First of all, second of all, if Megan was really reformed and changed coming out of jail, it wouldn't matter if people have heard this story. I mean, yeah, I mean, it might be embarrassing, but like if she's truly changed, who cares if people know about your bad past? Megan's not applying to these places and not doing anything about it because she doesn't plan to actually change. And if they've heard the whole story about her and they don't rush to her defense and, "Oh my God, you're just this poor victim," because that's what Megan's really addicted to. It's not financial things, it's not scams. If she was addicted to like money, she would have found out a way to get a lot of it by now through one of these scams. She's not addicted to money and scamming. She's addicted to people seeing her as a victim and like coming to her aid and coming to her defense. So this Emily woman thinks she's not defending Megan and that, Megan's not some mastermind. She's literally manipulated you into doing what she wants you to do, and you don't realize it. Like, that's what's sad. That's the whole reason I put the podcast out, is to help people. But again, I can't control what people do and what people think. As long as they have this information, I'm good. This Emily woman has this information. She's making the choices she's making. That's that's all I can say, and that's all I can do. A couple other things that this Emily woman has said in this podcast. She's saying that we're making it so Megan can't get a job. I know for a fact that that's not true. If Megan can't get a job, it's of her own doing. Justin literally tried to help her get a job. She didn't take him up on it. So that is not true. Then she went on some rant about like we're not truly Christians or something because we are doing this. And I don't want to I've spoken about like my personal faith. Again, the group's not a monolith though. Not everybody in the group is a Christian or claims to be one. Um but furthermore, it just really bothers me when non-Christians try and put what they think Christians should do on us. I consulted a pastor about this kind of group activity last year. The pastor told me what we were doing was loving our neighbor. If Megan's not changing, if we warn other people before she can scam them, that's loving our neighbor. That's doing a good thing. Jesus, followers of Christianity follow Jesus. Jesus Christ would loves Megan, would support her and everything, but would not allow her to continue living in this sin, in this sinister, like lying and manipulating and stealing. To try and say that it goes against Christianity to call out Megan for lying and scamming and sinning and all of those things. I don't know how you spin zone that in your head. And if I were you, I would stick to um I wouldn't call out other people's Christianity if you are not a Christian yourself. That's all I'm going to say about that. I can't stand when people do that. And it's a misguided understanding of Christian theology. My background, like in college, I went to college for religious studies. So and I took theology classes at a Catholic college and stuff before I transferred. Like I actually know what I'm talking about when it comes to all of these things. So this woman's a little bit misguided. I think leave people's religions out of it. And again, the group is not a monolith. Not everybody identifies that way. Um, not everybody is all acting in coordination with one another. The group is made up of people who are just following the story and commenting on what they see. If Megan presents herself as a public figure, she's not only going to get people saying good things about her, especially when she behaves in the manner she is. Most people are going to not have great things to say about her. She can't control people saying bad things about her. The only thing she can control, again, are her actions. If she refuses to change her actions, she's going to be in the same cycle. That's not a group problem. That's a Megan problem. She could change this if she wanted to. She doesn't. And the last thing, I think that this person is saying like, oh, like asking for money, stealing for 25 or, asking for $25, even if she's lying about it, that's not a crime. Again, it got her kicked out of work release. So it's a gray area. But like, if you just think about these people, cause I receive probably 30 messages a week now of people who found the podcast because Megan messaged them online for money. So again, that is Megan going out trying to find people, then they find the podcast, they get information, they decide what they want to do. But some of these people don't find the podcast, whatever. They give Megan $25. And then within a half hour, Megan's like, requesting more from them, requesting 100, requesting 75, saying, oh my, and just blowing them up to the point where Megan needs to, or this, whoever gives Megan money, like ends up blocking her because they're like, whoa, like I just thought I was giving some girl $5 to like be nice. And now all of a sudden she's like down my neck. Um, somebody like, being that I understand that pattern, and a lot of us who have been following this understand that pattern, the sense of like whiplash somebody would be experiencing, they're entitled to understand that like what's going on here once they experience that. I'm sorry to the people that I know are now listening because that happened to you, because you had that dealing with Megan. uh, I'm sorry that that happened to you. I don't know. I mean, you're entitled to understand that like you're not alone, and Megan's done that to people before. Megan's not allowed privacy while she scams people. She's not allowed privacy while she like does these things to people. If she's going to behave in that manner, people are allowed to understand what we all know. And again, she's seeking these people out. I mean, one of the crazier things I saw was on Christmas Day. She friend requested someone, a former, I don't even know if he's an acquaintance of mine, but somebody that I know of through political circles. Venmo friend requested him and then requested $25. Megan's never met this person before. So she's spending Christmas Day, "Hey, help me get home for the holidays. Help me get home for the holidays." Where is she going on the holidays? Where does she need to go? Why is she requesting all this money? Like she's doing this to herself. If she didn't do things like that, disturbing people on Christmas with families and kids and all these crazy things going on, like eh, nobody would be talking about this anymore. She brings it on herself. If she's going to do wild, bizarre things like that, we're going to talk about it. The problem, for the last time, the problem is not the people talking about it, it's Megan's actions. She wanted all this to change, she could change. Um, and yeah, so I guess the last thing is, yeah, Justin spoke to this woman, and this woman, in my opinion, doesn't really understand that she's kind of being manipulated by Megan. to a degree, I understand, like, if Megan threatened suicide again on the morning of Monday, December 30th on Twitter. And I think this Emily woman reached out to Megan to see if she's okay. Like, to a degree, I understand that. That's like very concerning when you see somebody do that. I think if you're me and Justin and Alex and Chloe, and we've all been following this for a while, we know what that kind of means. Like, she threatens suicide all the time, unfortunately. But it just so I guess when she does it so much, it's not super concerning. But this woman was concerned about that. So, you know, I don't know. Um, in my opinion, the best way to deal with Megan is to just not deal with her. But if you choose to deal with her, have fun on that ride. Um, and again, as a group, we're not doing anything wrong. So now I just want to go through a couple things really quickly about some of the things that have really infuriated me. Again, going back to this requesting $25 thing. I have heard from multiple people, including Megan herself, in a jail call she had with Justin, that Megan receives a disability check. And then there's a potential that she's staying in some sort of like Section 8 housing, which again is for my international listeners or people, Americans who don't know, Section 8 is like government subsidized housing where like it's usually, I mean, there's standards that like they have to adhere to, but it's like kind of like low income housing that the government subsidizes and the tenant has to pay like a very small portion. Um and disability payments are if you it's a government program where if you apply for that government program and you're accepted, it's supposed to be for people who like literally cannot work, like they have a disability, they are unable to work for some reason, um, that the government like kind of gives you money so that you're not so that you can take care of yourself. And so I have learned that Megan receives a disability payment. I heard that from, I'll just say, like a source close to the family that she receives one. And I heard from Megan herself in a jail call she had with Justin when she was begging Justin to bail her out. She said that she needs to get out because her mom can't pay the mortgage without Megan's disability payment. So that's two different people, including Megan herself. It, I there where there's smoke, there must be fire, right? That she receives this money. So I'm going to try to not rant, but this infuriates me. The first reason it infuriates me is because, first of all, I want to say we need to have programs like this. Like in a developed first world country, there are people who, like, unfortunately do not, who are down on their luck and they need assistance. They don't have family that can help them and take care of them. And it's our moral duty as a society to like take care of them, in my opinion. Um, but it's funny, I was listening to a podcast that was talking about this like right around when I found this out about Megan. Um, or like put the pieces together about this with Megan. There are some people who exploit this and they say they have mental health conditions and that is why they are unable to work. Um, does it sound like Megan's ever said something like she has mental health issues? So I don't know what she claims on that paperwork to try and get a disability payment. But from my understanding, she gets one. So where do I even start with this? First of all, when Megan's begging for $25 from people, saying I need it to make rent, I need it so I can eat today, but she's apparently getting some sort of a like money monthly assistance payment, that's extremely misleading and infuriating. It's also infuriating because, like I said, we need to have these programs, but like for people who really need them. If, in my opinion, Megan is able to work, she is able bodied. Um, the woman has 2 graduate degrees and an undergraduate degree. How can you pursue multiple like higher education degrees yet you're unable to work? That doesn't make sense. Like you don't pursue that many degrees if you are incapable of working. It's work to get those degrees. So like uh, to know that like that money could be going to like a single mother or someone who really needs it, but instead is going to Megan, that is infuriating. Another infuriating point of this or part of this is that if Megan is not busy all day, if she has nothing going on and she's not doing anything, that gives her more time to be her absolute worst self and scamming people. That's why she has time all day to be messaging people all day for money because she's not preoccupied with a job. And on top of that, like, this is why I don't think she'll get a job or she's refusing to get a job. If she got a job, that disability payment would go down. But a Venmo payment, random Venmo payments, any illegal money she gets from scamming, that won't count against the disability. So she has the ongoing payment or like thing that she's getting monthly, and then on top of that that anything else is just extra. And if you've ever been confused as I have been about like how did she ever afford the Tesla and how did she ever afford to do any of these things, a lot of that probably comes down to her receiving this disability payment. If it is true, again, I haven't seen documentation that she gets it, but I've heard from multiple people including Megan that she gets it. So that I mean, it infuriates me. The last reason I'll say, again, I'm not trying to like get super my views and anything, but I can't hold back here. This payment she's apparently getting, and if she's got in addition, not paying rent, most people's income, their largest thing that they have to pay for every month is rent. Um, this thing, like that whole scenario, like to know that every single one of us who listens to this and works hard, maybe at jobs we don't love, and our taxpayer dollars are going to subsidize Megan, like just continuing to message people and traumatize them and trauma dump and ask for money and all of these things. Like that is so beyond infuriating. And the amount of money, I don't want to say because I don't know for sure if it's true, but the number I heard, and this is where I get really mad. You guys know I monetized this podcast and I only did that because this is not my full-time job, but I work really hard at it. I know I want to like make it a better show and keep it going and everything. Hire an editor. In order to do that, I need to monetize the podcast. I'm very grateful for all of you guys' support and everything. Also, I have the Patreon and stuff. But like from the money I've made from monetizing this and the Patreon, just like monthly. Um just from what I'm making from this. And this is like a pretty popular podcast. It's like my Spotify Wrapped said it's like the top 5% of video podcasts on the platform. The what I am making from the ads I put on, I would need to quadruple this podcast in size to make the same amount of money that Megan is making in the disability check. So think about that. This is not my full-time job. My full-time job, I'm a freelance like graphic designer, web designer, social media manager. I'm actually taking new clients right now. So if anybody needs that, you can email me. But so in addition to that, which is like my actual source of income, I do this podcast, which is basically a second full-time job that I don't get paid for or am now just starting to monetize. And on this thing that I work extremely hard at, I don't even make a quarter of what Megan makes for doing nothing. And not only that, because then I realized I would need to quadruple the size and like to get in what Megan's apparently making to make what Megan's making pre-taxes. Okay. So I'd probably have to actually sextuple the reach and everything of this podcast in order to make what Megan's making. Because I have to pay taxes on that income. And then those taxes are going to go mostly to people who need it, mostly to infrastructure projects, everything that we need, right? I'm not like everybody has to pay taxes, but to know that she's exploiting the system and like that's partially what the money's going towards. I'm sorry, it's infuriating. It's infuriating to me. And I can't help being infuriated by that. I'm sorry if this pisses people off. I'm really giving my opinions today, but it really pisses me off that all of our hard-earned money um is going for to Megan in this roundabout way to make things and it's just enabling her to be worse. I'm going to get off that train though. Um I think actually that is the um least amount of time I've spent on that rant. One of these 12 recordings I did, that took up about like 30 minutes or something like that. It infuriates me that she's misrepresenting what she did. And one final thing actually on that, and this doesn't really bother me. This doesn't make me mad, but I do find it ironic that Megan for years was presenting herself as a high-powered Republican strategist, you know, flying private, advising these true conservatives, and then all the while she was doing like maybe the thing that is like universally condemned by Republicans and a lot of Democrats, which is exploit the social safety net. That irony is not lost on me. But we're going to get off of that now. I don't want to be like political and stuff. So now a couple more just kind of blips that have happened that have been kind of like people have had questions about. One of them is that Megan was kind of like emboldened, or like when we're talking about Megan being emboldened, she gets these people who kind of go out and defend her, and then she feels like them defending her means that she's in the right. She's not really doing anything wrong. She kind of gets worse, whatever. One of the best examples of that is she did an AMA, which stands for Ask Me Anything, on Reddit. And she did it in the Something Was Wrong Reddit page. I don't know if it's Tiffany's actual Something Was Wrong. And for those of you who are listening who don't listen to that, there's a second podcast that's very popular called Something Was Wrong that is also covering this story. So I think I've linked it. I'll have it linked so you can go listen to that one as well if you haven't yet. But you know, so Megan was seeing that certain people in that Reddit page were like kind of, I guess in her mind, defending her. And like, I don't necessarily believe that the people in that Reddit are really defending Megan so much as people on Reddit just like to find problems with things, and problems with Tiffany and problems with me and problems with, anything. They just like to be snarky. And so if you're going to be against Tiffany or anything, then automatically, you're kind of like on the pro Megan side. So a couple people have made comments like that. Honestly, not even most of them. But Megan, sees that, reads that, and thinks, oh, people are on my side. So she doesn't ask me anything, saying it's Megan here on an account called Cupcake Machine, and she's going to answer all these people's questions. And it just the delusion of that is just wild. Probably the most notable thing that came from that Ask Me Anything was that she was claiming that Tom told her, and Tom exposed his name, but I'm just for continuity's sake of the podcast, I'm just going to keep calling him Tom. Um, she was saying that Tom told her that he doesn't have to pay her back, and like just put yourself in his shoes for a minute. He never said that. He never told her that. She's staying at this Emily woman's home. She's repeatedly calling Tom to try and get him to do an interview for her podcast where she interviews her victims. He doesn't answer, obviously, at first, but after 20 calls, sometimes it's just easier to answer, which is what has happened with, like, all of the people who still somewhat communicate with Megan. She just calls so incessantly, it just gets easier to answer at a certain point because you want her to stop calling. And she's relentless. And finally, he picks up the phone. From my understanding, that conversation was just kind of re-traumatizing him in certain ways, and him really just being like, I don't want to do your podcast, and like, you owe me money. to then log into Reddit and see that she's claiming that he said on that call that she's good, she doesn't owe him money. That is so think about how gaslit he must feel. He never said that, but she's claiming it. That's what a liar she is. That's what a manipulator she is. My heart breaks for him and like going through that. I can't imagine, and it makes me so, so, so mad. Um, and then on top of that, like it just kind of goes to show like the delusion. And that's all there really is to say on that. And then speaking of other kind of crazy things, we got kind of two more big stories. One is the story of kind of this woman named Stephanie Abo, who maybe around mid-December joined the Facebook group. I'm sorry, again, a lot of this is Facebook group centered. I'm sorry to the majority of the listeners who are not in the Facebook group. I think like only like 10% of the listeners, maybe less, are in the Facebook group or follow any of this stuff. But you know, this woman named Stephanie Abo joined the Facebook group, and then she messaged me at 4 a.m. one morning, kind of like a long, rambly, incoherent message saying that, like, she served time in the Hamilton County Jail with Megan, and she thinks that Megan has done things wrong, but also sees Megan as a victim, and she wanted to share that story with me. And I was kind of confused, but I messaged her back and I said, "Oh, okay, yeah, like I'll talk to you anytime. I'll even record it and maybe include it in an episode to include your perspective." Because I'm not trying to like leave out Megan's like side or anything. Megan's been invited on this to give her side. She won't come. And everybody else who's been invited, I've put the call out to people who are on Megan's, whatever. Nobody will come on here. They're just putting out their own podcast, I guess. And so, I was like, okay, fine. Then this woman, Stephanie Abo, starts posting kind of weird things in the Facebook group. She told one guy that he's lying about being gay, which I don't think he was even talking about being gay. I think what she was doing is she was going through and like kind of creeping on people's profiles. So she said that, which is just like a very bizarre thing. Another comment I remember seeing is she looked at a woman or commented back on a woman saying, "Why don't you go feed your husband? I'm sure he wants that." And it's like, what? That's such a weird thing to say. And my personal favorite post of hers is she posted in the group saying, "I'm going to leave this group soon because I don't want to be a part of it. But why are there people from Alaska in here?" Which I just thought was really funny. Um, I ended up booting her from the group because it was just weird, and some people thought it was Megan. So what I figured out from that kind of whole debacle is that she's not Megan. This is a real woman who was serving time at the same time as Megan in the Hamilton County Jail. She was charged with terrorism. I don't know why she was in a county jail for a terrorism charge, but she was. She's out now. I I don't understand. Um But it sounds like, 'cause people message me who have knowledge of about what was going on inside of the jail. Multiple people messaged me this same story, that Stephanie was in the jail at the same time as Megan, and she was kind of erratic in the same way that Megan was. Like, they were both causing a lot of issues in the jail, and Stephanie made a claim that Megan and her were both targeted and repeatedly, I think, raped or attempted to be raped by the police in that jail. And I think Stephanie was incessantly reporting this allegation. And they were on camera the whole time. There's cameras all over the jail. There was never a time that they weren't on camera. So people knew that that wasn't true, that they were not being repeatedly gang raped by the prison police, or like the prison guards. But she was claiming that. And I think that she must have been claiming that somewhere on the Reddit or something too, because I saw people in the Something Was Wrong Reddit page asking about that and saying, "Wait, Megan might have actually been abused." Um, so like I said, so multiple people who had knowledge of what was going on inside of the jail both said that she constantly made these accusations, and they don't have any evidence to that ever happening. It sounds like, I think maybe her and Megan were bunk bunkmates for like a couple days, but both of them were constantly shifted from solitary confinement to the general population, to different cell blocks within the general population because they couldn't get along with the other inmates, and then to mental health treatment. So, like, it sounds like both of them are kind of cut from the same cloth. It sounds like I could do a mini series on Stephanie, honestly. Like, I would like to look into these, like, terrorism charges. Um, but it does not seem like that there's any validity to this claim of gang rape from prison guards. It sounds, the and she is a real person, I guess. The last thing I'll say on that is that Megan has never reiterated this claim. And we all know that Megan has falsely accused people in the past before. So you know, I think it speaks volumes if Megan's not even claiming that, I guess. Um, so I don't believe that accusation coming from Stephanie Abo. And I don't believe it, the accusation that Stephanie Abo has made on behalf of Megan. And she's no longer in the Facebook group. I don't know if she and Megan are in contact. The people who had knowledge of them inside of the jail were like, didn't think that they were that close, but they probably spent a couple days together, but they were both just like a little bit off. Um, so there's that. Then the final story is probably another one that people are confused about, which is the story of Sarah and Greg's mustache. And if you remember from earlier in the series, Greg's mustache is an anonymous Twitter account that has followed Megan for a long time. A lot of people have theories about who it is. That comes into that becomes important later in this story. Somebody tweeted that it's clearly Justin. I'll tell you right now, it is. I know for a fact it is not Justin. Um, but nobody really knows who it is, and Megan's very obsessed with this person. So, from what I have gathered and from what I understand, there's a girl named Sarah who lives in California, who I think is from the area of Indiana that Megan's from, and she heard about the Megan story a couple, like, last summer or maybe even last fall, and she put money on Megan's commissary. She kind of got in contact with her in the jail, and she was kind of like trying to talk to her a little bit. I don't know what happened, why they fell out of contact when Megan was in jail, but just like within the last week, and I'm recording this on New Year's Eve, um, this girl, Sarah, started posting once again that, like, oh, I'm I'm acting as Megan's manager and I will be selling this story to Netflix and Hulu or something. Um, and then Megan was interacting with this girl, Sarah, saying, I'm so excited to have representation and get a documentary made about me on Netflix. So I don't know. Like, to me, it doesn't seem like this Sarah girl is like actually like a Hollywood agent or anything. To me, what it seems like is she sees the potential in this like being a big story. Honestly, like I saw, like a Politico reporter saw, like a BBC reporter saw last fall, like Tiffany Reese saw. I mean, like, people can see that this is a story worth following. And I think that she kind of accurately can see that, and maybe has some quasi connections and thinks that she could get a movie made. So she was trying to talk to and communicate with Megan to like kind of get her side and stuff. And so they were kind of communicating, I guess. And then, Megan talking to this girl, Sarah. And from my understanding, Sarah was asked, like, was saying that she would give her some sort of advance, some sort of like monetary advance. And then they would do a split on this, getting this movie made, and they would each make some sort of percentage. Um, and that, and again, I don't think that that's Sarah's, like, she is not with a management company, it seems like. And I also I don't know a ton about productions and stuff like that, but I don't think that that's how it works. Um, so Megan's talking to this girl because she thinks she's going to get some sort of like lump sum of money from her, and obviously Megan wants that. And so so this all is going on. Then Greg's mustache comes back into the picture because he starts getting emails that he assumes are phishing emails. Um, and I think actually are phishing emails from Megan because, in my opinion, any director, any producer looking at this story, the story they're going to see is going to be about Megan and the people she scammed. It's not going to be figuring out the identities of people in the groups. But obviously with Megan, the way she sees the story, and I think that she was excited because she gets control over the story. She thinks the real story here is who is who is Greg's mustache, the infamous Anon account. So she sends these phishing emails. Mustache messages her on Twitter saying, like, seriously, you are dumb. Like, I'm not going to open these phishing emails. And like, this is actually malicious and illegal to send phishing emails. Megan admits to it, from my understanding, and says that it was all Sarah's idea, and Sarah is the one who told her to do that. Then Mustache looks at Sarah's profile, realizes that she messaged him, whoever this account is, last summer or something, saying, "Tell me more about the story." And Mustache says, "Just so you know, Megan is accusing you of being the mastermind behind phishing for my information, which is illegal. Like trying to send me these phishing emails and stuff." So this causes Sarah to have a big public falling out with Megan, and now she continues to interact with the Mustache account, but I don't think that they fully get along. Mustache is making comments about Sarah's appearance a lot. I don't really I mean, what is the story? What is going on? But so really all you need to know about this is the partnership between Megan and Sarah lasted all of 3 or 4 days. Sarah posted some sort of screenshot saying that um of Megan incessantly texting her late at night, like we know that she does. Um and is like saying, "Please, what if I sold you it for $500 and give you a higher percentage of the movie income and stuff?" Which, again, that's a very low advance I would think that you would get for making a Netflix documentary, but what do I know? Um, and so yeah, that's kind of that story. It does not seem that Megan is affiliated with the Sarah person anymore. I don't fully know Sarah's intentions or whatever, but what I will say is now this Emily person on her podcast and I think other people are claiming that this was like a group plot similar to the Yanni plot and that people somehow coordinated with Sarah to do this. And what I will say about that is like I, I have not spoken to the mustache. I don't know. I don't think that Sarah did this in coordination with anybody with the group. And this is what I mean by saying like the group is not a monolith. It seems like Sarah, again, saw that there could be some potential benefit to this, or she wanted to be somewhat involved somehow, some way, whatever. She calls Megan, or she somehow gets in contact with Megan. Megan's pretty apt to take on new allies right now, takes her in quickly. Sarah wanted to get some sort of information from her, but like they're claiming that this was like a big group plot and it wasn't. I knew nothing about it. Justin knew nothing about it. From my knowledge, even like Vero and Mustache did not know anything about it. Like, I don't, Chloe, Alex, nobody really knew the Sarah person. She kind of did this all on her own. And I don't really know what her intentions were. And I don't think anybody really does. Um, I, I mean, again, like it's not a group thing. We don't like when I even think back to the Yanni scheme, like nobody else in the group really knew that we were running the Yanni scheme. The only people who knew were me and Justin, our group of friends from college Republicans who, you know, you don't, I mean, maybe I've included a couple clips of them like on this podcast, but like it's not main character. They're not main characters in the story. Eventually we kind of told Alex and and Mike and Kyle and Kyle's married to Chloe, so like she kind of knew, but like we weren't constantly telling them what was going on. Nobody really knew what was going on. It was just kind of me and Justin. And so, like, I think that's kind of the same with the Sarah person. It's not like there's some big group conspiracy. I mean, we're at the point with like tens of thousands of people are listening to this now. You're not going to have a scenario where tens of thousands of people are all on the same page. So to act like this is some whole group plot or something is ridiculous and untrue. Um, it wasn't I don't know. That's all I can say. It's not a group thing. It just seems like she did this on her own volition for what reason I don't know. Um, so I think I explained everything in detail. I'm sorry. I know it's a long episode, but I wanted to give you something to listen to ring in 2025. So I'll wrap this up with saying, happy new year. And yeah, I mean, I'm these are my unfiltered kind of thoughts on the matter. There are certain episodes and certain scenarios in this where I've really bitten my tongue and I've really not given my true thoughts on certain scenarios or held back, and I get in trouble anyway. So I'm just going to put out my actual thoughts. I know there's some people who get very mad and when they hear about like Republican things or something like that. I I would rather just give my honest thoughts because again, if I'm going to get yelled at, I'd rather it be what I actually think. And the last thing I will say is as it pertains to the group that you're all now a part of. Welcome again to the club. It's fun. Um I've met a lot of people or I've spent a lot of time online conversing with some of these people now for over a year. Particularly Vero. Also, I've had interactions with Greg's mustache, obviously Chloe, obviously Alex, obviously Justin. Um, any of these leaders in the group and stuff, everyone I just named, and others that I'm not naming, but everyone I just named, like it is truly from the bottom of my heart, I believe all of these people have good intentions when it comes to the group. I really think all of these people, all they want to do is prevent Megan from continuing to scam people and to stop Megan from scamming other people. That's all they want. They want Tom paid back. They don't want there to be any new victims and whatever. And maybe because it's a group, maybe you disagree with certain things that certain different people do. Maybe you disagree with the Yanni plot that like Justin and I did. Honestly, though, most people that I've heard of, I've not really heard of anyone who disagrees with that. But like, maybe you do. That's your prerogative. You can do that. That's fine. But like, ultimately, I think that all of these people have good intentions. They have a good heart. They're not out to hurt Megan or get Megan or anything like that. Unless, of course, hurting Megan means that you're preventing her from scamming. We all don't want her to do that anymore. But nobody's in this to try and bully her or anything like that. And now that you're kind of included in this whole community, you're not doing anything wrong with following this series. Um, I'll say this publicly. I don't think it's right, and I don't think that anybody should be doing things like trying to figure out where Megan lives, trying to figure out and call employers, telling people not to hire her. I don't think that anybody should do anything like that. But in that Megan's claiming that that's happening, and I don't really know that it's true. And for the record, I disagree. And I'm not calling on anybody to do anything like that. I don't think that people should. But like really like hearing from all of Megan's victims and wanting there not to be more, you're a good person. And it doesn't matter how much Megan manipulates and twists the story to thinking that she is the victim. Like it's very clear-minded, clear-headed people understand what this is. It's not wrong to be a part of a group that follows a public figure and her kind of like public crashing out. There's nothing wrong with that. So I'm going to leave you with that. Happy New Year. I'm going to try and start putting out some more episodes more frequently. The story I wanted to have come out in January, none of the people will get back to me for. So I need to figure out like kind of what I'm going to do with a second season. But for now, I have a couple other Megan episodes I want to do kind of to wrap the story up, especially if she continues with this like public train wreck. There will probably be some more updates to come. So expect some more from me. Happy New Year. Have a great rest of your day. I hope you like this episode. My name is Amanda. This is Don't Waste This Effing Podcast, the story of Megan Stoner.